Describe where we're at in your class's learning journey. What have the learners been doing up until now?
So this year in Multi-Age first and second grade, our inquiry question is, how do learners impact the world around them? And we started off learning virtually with school, and we wanted the students to see what is a learner, how would they define learning, especially this school year, because we all knew it wasn't going to look like any other year. We weren't really sure what to anticipate, and so we wanted the students to brainstorm, what do you think learning looks like this year? What do you think a learner is? And as we took the students through different experiences, both virtually and then when we returned back to campus, we started to see them define a learner through mindsets. And really seeing the students shift from learners are defined by skills to learners are defined by mindsets was something very valuable for us.
What would you like us to pay attention to? If we could give you observational data, what would you ask us to collect?
So one thing to highlight about learning this year is collaboration and learning has looked very different. The students are all sitting behind a plexiglass, which does pose a challenge for collaboration, and in that sense, we tried to incorporate technology. So we wanted the students to use Padlet for open discussions. There's a lot of walking around and visiting students at their direct seats because they can't move around as much. And instead of working in the smaller groups that we would have normally done in a previous school year, there's a lot of independent work, a lot of independent thinking going on. The students have developed a lot more self-directed learning where they can become independent writers, independent thinkers. And so today I would like the biggest goal to be for the students to show that they understand what the word impact means and that they can make a personal connection with the word impact. You don't want to necessarily give them all these different examples of how their life can be impacted, but you want them to come up with a personal experience or personal connection on their own through the support that we're trying to give them with examples of what impact means, but allowing them to make that direct connection for what it means to their life. Talking about inquiry, right, a lot recently. We have been reflecting about your inquiry a lot recently. One thing we're going to revisit is what you folks said a learner is. So at the beginning of the year, we talked about what is a learner, but recently I asked you the same question. What do you think a learner is? For today, we're going to be doing a writing activity. You are going to think about someone that had an impact on your life. This time, I'm going to show you the video version of the story.
It was as quiet as a dream. We walked on toward the woods, and then Pa called. And then Pa called his big flashlight and caught the owl, just as it was landing on the branch.
Close your eyes for about 10 seconds. I want you to imagine that one person or that one experience you had where somebody made a difference for you. Let's start writing for about 10 minutes. Miss Huber and I will come around to help you write about that experience. So you can start writing about your experience.
How do you feel the lesson unfolded? What did you observe as a teacher as the students participated?
I'm really happy with how the lesson went. It actually went a lot better than I thought it was going to. I noticed that the students were very engaged, and I think that's our biggest goal as teachers, is to create lessons that are meaningful to the students, not just a cookie cutter lesson, but allowing them to have those moments where they make those personal connections.
What questions did this lesson bring up in you?
A few different questions came to mind throughout the lesson. One that stands out in particular is, what can we do with this writing piece? So sometimes there's writing pieces or different activities throughout the day where you're trying to enforce certain skills or do reflective moments. But something like this, as I was reading what the different students wrote, you almost want to turn it into an appreciation letter or a focus on just different relationships that they have, because student to student, some of them are writing about their parents, a sibling, a teacher. I saw another student wrote about a coach. And so it's how can we highlight these different people in their lives and expand it on a bigger scale, just outside of something they wrote in their journal today.
And looking towards the next class, what ways did today help guide your thinking about determining what they will do next?
Our goal for what they will do next is to have the students now come up with a big idea that they have that they would like to try to impact someone else's life with. And so wanting them to embrace, how can I impact someone else's life? Now that I know that someone has impacted my life, now that I know how that feels, how can I replicate that and pay it forward almost to do it for somebody else?
This is an example of an inquiry classroom. Can you talk a little about how inquiry unfolded and what we saw and why that's a special kind of teaching approach?
This particular lesson was a writer's workshop lesson. However, there were many layers to it, and we tried to incorporate experiences they had at the beginning of the year, skills that they have developed in writing, in literacy, all from the beginning and the middle of the year. And now that we're approaching the end of the year, this is a time for them to bring everything together, to be reflective in their inquiry experiences and their journey, and really decide, how can I take my inquiry experiences and communicate this in words? How can I write about my experiences in words?
Is there something that you want to convey to the teacher that's listening right now that maybe they should know that we didn't ask you?
There's a few things that I would want to highlight. I think one thing would be that your best resource as a teacher in the classroom really is your students. They're the ones that come with a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge. They come from so many different backgrounds. And so when you allow them to think and to ask questions, to dig a little bit deeper, you can really enhance their lesson or their learning just from a short lesson. And really having the time to communicate with them and draw out their ideas really develops their understanding and makes their helps them to make meaningful connections too. I think another important thing to highlight is there are so many different ways that you can tie pieces from other content areas together, so many ways that you can highlight inquiry even though you're trying to get through a writer's workshop lesson, for example. But it's always helping the students to use thinking routines, to think bigger, to use their voice, and to really pull from their own experiences.